So you're thinking about starting your first garden, but you're scared that it might fail. I'm going to share with you my 10 rules for having a successful first garden. And the first rule is start small and keep it simple. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Your first couple years gardening, you have no business trying to tend to a 30 by 30 plot. What you want to do is start with a little 4 by 4 garden bed, or maybe a 4 by 8 garden bed, or even some containers. Now there's plenty of books out there. You pick whichever one you like the best, but I highly recommend Square Foot Gardening by Mel Bartholomew. Greatly help you. And the second rule is buy your seedlings. Don't try to grow from seed. When you're first learning to grow your garden, you want to focus your efforts on learning how to take care of the garden out there. You don't want to focus on all this stuff behind me. Go to one of your local nurseries, your local greenhouses, even some of the produce stands, and buy your seedlings there. If you have to, you can go to the big box stores. Nothing wrong with that. You'll pay a lot more. The plants probably won't be as healthy. And I know what you're going to hear on the internet, well, you need to grow from seed because you got a greater selection. And that's true. When you're starting out, you don't want to burden yourself down with that stuff. You just want to go buy you some good healthy seedlings. The third rule is selecting plants that are easy to grow. There's nothing you're going to find any easier than tomatoes, lettuce, radishes, cucumbers, maybe even some summer squash. If you just had to experiment with the row garden, green beans would be a good choice. Do yourself a favor, pick you out some disease-resistant varieties. I promise you, you'll thank me for it later. Rule number 4, don't get in a hurry. It's early spring. We went from the highs in the 70s and the 80s and the lows in the 50s and 60s to it's 50 degrees out there and it's going to be in the 30s tonight. The last thing you want to do is to go buy your seedlings, put them out in the garden, and it gets cold, or maybe it even frosts and it kills your plants. If you want to have the best chance for success in your first garden, do yourself a favor, find out when your last average frost date is, and what I would recommend is you wait at least 2 weeks past that last average frost date before you start putting your warm season crops out in your garden. Rule number 5, amending our soil. Now when we talk about amending our soil, it's not just about fertility. Sure, we want to add nutrients in the ground, but we do have to talk about the drainage. A lot of times, if you're building a raised bed, you'll purchase soil. It might be bagged soil. It might be soil from a landscape company or a farm supply. And what we do is we'll use about 50% earth, and then we'll add to it compost and manure, peat moss, and perlite, and we will till that in. However you're getting your soil, it's got to drain well. And then after that's established, we'll add in fertilizer. I like to use an organic fertilizer. I try to put that into the soil about 30 days, maybe even 45 days before I'm planning on planting. And if I miss that time and I'm not able to mix in any of that organic fertilizer, I'll go with the synthetic, maybe a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20. As long as it's a balanced fertilizer, I don't care. And I'll try to get that in at least 2 weeks before I intend to plant, because that stuff breaks down so much quicker. Some years I'll even do both. I'll put that organic fertilizer in 30 or 45 days before I plant, and then just before I plant, maybe just a week, I'll put that granular synthetic fertilizer, and I'll mix it in the soil. That way my plants not only got immediate fertility, they've got fertility for the next couple months. Amending your soil so that it drains well to prevent those root issues and those disease issues, and adding the fertility to it will greatly improve your chances of succeeding with your first garden. Rule number 6, daily visits to your garden. Now guys, I know, we live in a busy world. We're all busy. And you don't necessarily have to make daily trips into your garden, but I strongly encourage you to do so. If you go great lengths of time, say once a week or so out in your garden, your plants aren't going to be watered enough. Diseases and pests are going to do more damage than they should, and you're going to increase the workload. Now, so do yourself a favor, make time to be in your garden every day, or no more than every other day. It'll greatly increase your chances of having a successful garden. And rule number 7, watering and feeding regularly. I cannot tell you how much or how often you need to water. That's going to depend on a good number of things. It's going to depend on how hot it gets and how long it stays that way, what your soil is like, what you're growing. And if you're growing in a container, it's just going to dry out very fast. So I'll tell you what I do. Between the time I get up and before I go to work, I will come out in the garden and I'll water everything that needs watering. I'll take my sprayer and I'll just spray it at the base of those plants, and I'll just count to 10. 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And I'll do one bed. And if I think that it needs more, then I'll come back and do it again. It typically takes me an hour every morning to water all those plants in. And my fertility schedule is every 7 days. You need to have a regular watering and feeding schedule. And rule number 8 has to deal with pests and diseases. Guys, there's no way around it. Your plants are going to be affected by diseases sooner or later, and the pests are sure to come. Where I live, we have lots of high humidity, and that's just a breeding ground for mold and fungal issues. We have to learn to deal with it. Japanese beetles are another thing that we really have to be concerned with. But another one is worms, and worms, boy, they come during the springtime, and then another band of them comes during the fall, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. They're gonna come, and you gotta learn to deal with them. So if you want to have a successful garden, you need to expect them, and you need to be ready for them. Several books that'll help you, and we live in the day and age of YouTube, apps that you can put on your phone. So for rule number 8, you need to learn to deal with pests and diseases the best way you can. And that's going to lead us into the 9th rule, which is take notes and keep a journal. Start out simple. This is the type of plant I got, and this is when I planted it, and this is where I planted it, and this is how I watered it, and these are the diseases that I've had to deal with, these are the pests that I've had to deal with, and this is how it turned out at the end. It's really that simple. If you do crop rotation, you're going to know, okay, I put this in plot 1, and next year I'll put it in plot 2. Or I bought this variety of plant and it did really good. Or I bought this variety of plant, it didn't do good at all. It might be that it just don't grow good in your area. It might be you did something wrong. It might be a pest issue, a disease issue. And by creating a journal, you're going to have a wealth of knowledge available to you for years to come. And one of the benefits that's seldom discussed is being able to take that knowledge and pass it down to future generations. Rule number 10, have fun. You know, guys, there's a lot of things we're going to do out in the garden. It's not going to be fun. We built this pergola last year. We're going to train grapes to grow up the side of it, cover the top. We're going to put some string lights under it. My wife's got these 2 little glider rockers we're going to put under it. We've got it built right beside the swing set so the grandbabies can have all the fun they want, and we could sit there like the old people we're turning into. My son decided he was going to build the trellises for his new blackberry patch that he wanted to establish. One of the most enjoyable things that I know in the garden is taking my babies out there, my grandyoungins. And I'm just going to tell you, if you've never spent time with your grandyoungin out in the garden picking berries, you don't know what you're missing, man. It's extra special fun. So make sure that you find things that are pleasant to do in your garden. The seating area we built was a pergola. You might want like a little bitty shaded picnic area. 2 little chairs and a table so you can go there in the morning, read a book, or in the evening, drink you some coffee or something like that. And a lot of folks, they will really focus on the aesthetics of their garden. So if you really want your garden to be successful, the more fun that you make it, the better chances that you're going to be out there in your garden doing the things that need to be done. By following these 10 simple rules, you'll greatly increase your chances of having a successful first garden. And if you like more beginner gardener tips, don't forget to check out our beginner gardener series playlist, which I'll try to link right up here. If you've enjoyed the video, if you've learned something, I sure would appreciate if you hit that like button. If you like gardening and garden related content, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, folks. Until we see you again, hope you're having a great day.